Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Inept General, and welcome to my Skaven campaign video. I've had a chance to play it. Let's talk through some of the bigger points of the Skaven campaign, but first of all, let's kick off with the introduction for Queek's campaign. Queek the Head Taker, let's roll it.
Deep under the world, they chitter and plan, watching, waiting. When they emerge, it is a nightmare vision. The Skaven, a ravenous horde of verminous ratmen. They gnaw at the roots of the world like an infected wound. They mean to rule over ruins, for such is the will of their god, the great horned rat. Only the island home of the High Elves has remained unscathed. And at its center is the Great Vortex. A swirling maelstrom that siphons chaos from the world. The Skaven covet its vast power with envious, beady red eyes. The twin-tailed comet is oft seen as an omen, but this time its wake has disturbed the winds of magic. In the secret halls of the Under-Empire, the Council of 13 has gathered. A time to scheme of opportunity.
I killed dwarf things in Pillar City. No! Clanmores go to Southlands. Hunt for Warpstone. Moors are puppet minion. Pestilence infest Lastria. Yes. But all Warpstone for Council plan. Come, scribe slave. Work to do. Comet makes elf things weak. Council wants power of the Vortex. Just as prophecy demands. So it true. You read markings on the Black Pillar. Then you know we must seek find the Screaming One. Find out how to control the Vortex. Oh yes, Master. But a large tribute of Warpstone will that demon require if we summon him. Return to your assigned clan. Harvest Warpstone. Yes, most precipitous of masters. And flay yourself, your impertinence. Oh, it will be done, your worship. Squirt, musk of fear, vermin, for the head taker comes before you. I has mission from council itself. That how important I am. Southlands under attack from elf things. Clanmores sent to kill elf things and find Warpstone. Warpstone essential. Elf things come from Sea Fortress. In time, we'll take that too. Good base for Queek, maybe. Yes?
Fight elf things. Kill elf things. More stuff. More heads. More glory for Queek.
Okay guys, first things first. First thing that comes up is let's talk about the Under Empire. Now the Under Empire, I'd made a whole separate video about how it works. The idea, for those of you who are new to the channel, new to the idea of Skaven, is that the Skaven live underneath a lot of human cities. They kind of excavate out the bottom, and that's just where they live. For example, cities like Altdorf in the Empire have a Skaven settlement underneath them. However, Creative Assembly didn't go full Under Empire with tunnels and kind of a sub-map to the surface map. They didn't go that way. I wanted them to go that way, but they've kind of gone for some kind of mediocre, medium of the ground compromise, whereby what they've done is Skaven settlements are still visible on the surface, but you don't know they're Skaven settlements, so they're ruins. Now, to any other person apart from the Skaven player, you see the Skaven settlement as a ruin, and you don't know what it is until you go up to it. Now, the reason you go up to ruins in Total War Warhammer 2 is that you can reoccupy them, there's little treasure side quests, and you can go treasure hunting in ruins as well. So there's a couple of things that you can do in ruins that would draw a player to a ruin. Now, if you go up to a ruin and you find out there's a full stack of Skaven army in there, you might be a little bit surprised, and you might get your army annihilated. So this is the idea of Skaven. They're ambushers. They'll jump out. You don't know where they are. And indeed, if you have a stack, an army in a city, that is a Skaven city. If you're not Skaven, you can't see the city. Skaven can, however, see other Skaven cities. So they can pick them out. They know where other Skaven live for the most part. And so they can kind of draw conclusions as to where other Skaven are. But they're a fantastic ambushing sort. A fantastic race to play in maybe a versus campaign, if you ask me, because of this ambushing aspect. So that's how the Skaven Under Empire is done. It looks like ruins to you and I, and that's why all the ruins on the world map that came out a little while ago that I couldn't comment on because I was under embargo, I already knew what they were, and if I drew any conclusions, I'd be sort of breaking embargo unless I just lied to you guys. So that's why I haven't commented on the world map. Speaking of the world map, let's zoom out of the Skaven campaign a little bit and show you around a little. Now, on my own copy of this that unfortunately got lost by Creative Assembly, I zoomed out the whole way and it does look impressive, but for us, we do have the map that was released a few days ago. Now, as you see on the right-hand side, all these ruins mostly be Skaven settlements. This red block down here in the Southlands is about where Queek starts. Now, I have to assume Clan Pestilence starts on the other side with that green block, and that's going to be Lord Skrolk's starting position over there. So we have this green ruin and the red ruin on the right-hand side. So the Southlands, south of the Lands of the Dead, red ruin, that's Queek. To the left, in Lustria, we have the green ruin, and that's going to be Lord Skrolk, one has to imagine. Now, as we go up the map, I went exploring a little bit when I had a chance to play a few hours of this Skaven campaign, and I did get a number of hours with it. No sign of Araby. That's, for me, the biggest disappointment. As many of you guys know, I've done a video on Araby and the armies that are there. Do click the top right-hand corner now, or find it in the description below later on to watch that video. But there's no Araby, there's no sign of the Tomb Kings. We do have the... what are these tribes called over here where the Tomb Kings are set up properly? It's the Strigoi Empire and the Necrarch Brotherhood. Now, they will be replaced by Tomb Kings later on, we can only imagine. But where Araby is, there's Bretonias. Where the Tomb Kings are, there's just vampire counts at the moment, but that will be changed out, I'm sure. Now, as we move through the rest of the Southlands, we do see some other tribes, mostly made up of lizard men, it looks like. Now, there is the tribe of Karak Zorn. Now, Karak Zorn is the lost dwarven capital, thought to be like kind of the first city amongst dwarves. It was lost eons ago. Now, the fact they put it in there is really cool, and I do hope there is a quest to go down there for something when a dwarven DLC is probably eventually introduced. So the map on itself looks pretty good. We know that Nagarond is the faction of Malekith now. Now, does his mother start at Haganeth? I think that's meant to be her starting position, and she is a little bit further south, I believe. Actually, no, I'm not sure. Where does she actually start? Sorry, I'm just trying to find that location of Harganeth with that faction icon. Oh yeah, it's further, a little bit further to the northeast. Now, I'm not sure if that's actually where Harganeth is. It's much closer to Malekith, but I imagine they put that far away from each other unless I'm misremembering, unless it's Haggref that she's actually from. But I think that's actually Helbrun's territory, who I imagine we'll see as a legendary lord in the DLCs later on down the line. If you'd like to know my DLC predictions, I've done a video on that already. Again, top right hand corner or down in the description below. But on the whole, the world map looks great. It's slightly askew, like Ulthuan, the island of the High Elves up here, where we see all the High Elf kingdoms, is not really above Araby. It's much more to the left, but I understand them having to move a few things around. Now, one thing that is kind of fun is there is Albion on there. Now, I've done a video on Albion. Now, it looks like that is the territory of scaling, but it's fun that Albion's on the map, and it does open up the possibility of maybe future Albion kind of DLC stuff. But Albion's on there, and that's kind of fun by itself. Anything else that stands out to me on the map? Not particularly. We see Teclis starting in the bottom left or the southwest, and Tyrion will be starting, I believe, as probably Lefern, if I'm going to guess, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Mazdamundi will be Hexoatl, so he's starting where he should be, and the last defenders are the tribe of Krokgar, so he's actually starting on the other side of the world, almost as far east on the Southlands as you can get. So that's kind of where people are starting out, guys. Now, moving on from the world map, we have the idea of food. Now, a lot of the races in Total War Warhammer 2 are going to have a kind of secondary currency. For the Skaven, that secondary currency is food. Now, you get food from a number of different levels, and it allows you to do a couple of different things. First off is that, here we go, when you start to run out of food, if your food is below 20%, you get growth penalties, leadership penalties, raiding penalties, public order penalties, income from looting and sacking settlements, and post-battle penalties. So a lot of penalties there if your guys are starving. And then that gets a little bit more reduced the less they're starving, up to neutral, which is +3 growth or progress. Excess food starts to get you some great stuff at +10 growth, +5 leadership, +1 public order, and then +20. Now, what I will say is that food at one point during my hours on the campaign was kind of hard to come by. And then suddenly I just didn't have a problem. And that was mainly through doing battle, I think. But food is going to be a tricky. It's one of those resources that, despite having played about 3 hours of the campaign, I wasn't exactly sure the best way to manage it. So it will take a little bit of getting used to. This is kind of places that food can come from. Buildings, captives, and then that's about it. And then dominating scheme, and then raiding. Those are places you can get food from. So let's talk about corruption. We're going to come back onto a couple of other things food can do later on, but Skaven corruption is kind of unusual in that it's a corruption that actually affects the Skaven as well, at least from my understanding of it in this preview build of the game. So corruption, unlike Chaos and Vampiric corruption, which doesn't do any harm to the vampires or to Chaos, Skaven corruption actually affects your own public order. Now, it does give you some bonuses, and it does cause attrition to enemies of the Skaven, but it can affect your own public order. There are buildings to counteract this, however, so you can do a lot of things around building up public order that you can build in Skaven settlements to kind of deal with it. We'll come to buildings a little bit later on in this video, but I just want you all to bear that in mind. Now, coming back to food quickly, we do have here the Menace Below. Now, if you guys have seen my unit stat comparison video or the battle videos or anything like that, you'll know the Menace Below is an ability that all Skaven armies have to summon a unit of clan rats from below the ground that they're battling on, and a unit of clan rat comes up through this tunnel and attacks from the angle you've placed them at. It's pretty cool. Now, you can increase the amount of Menaces Below charges you have. Now, I think Queek starts off the campaign with 2 extra ones as a bonus for him being a legendary lord. So it looks like you start off with 1 menace below as the game goes. And then you can increase that by spending food. So if you can go from 3 to 4 to 5, but you will lose that food. And so you will take the penalties that implies. But during that one battle, maybe if times are desperate, you really need some extra units, you can summon up more from the menace below. Now you have to remember to summon them. You don't start with them in your stack. And that's kind of a good way of showing that the Skaven overwhelm their enemies with numbers, is that you can kind of summon up these guys from below you to swell your numbers as a Skaven army and really keep it going that way. Now, once you've done that, you can do a couple of things once you've won the battle. So the first one is sell off. Now, we've seen that before. You kind of ransom off captives and you get some money and you lose some casualty replenishment. We've seen that option. The next one is enslave. Now, this idea that you take all your captives and send them back to your Skaven cities where they're then sort of chopped up for food for your empire. And the third one is just eat, where you eat them yourselves, your army, and that lists the troops of the army. So that's kind of how that works, your 3 options post-battle for the Skaven Empire. Now, here's another thing you can do with food, and it's unique to the Skaven, and it's really interesting and adds a different way of thinking about the campaign, and that is you can increase the size of your settlements when you take them. So when you take a settlement, food remaining 62, that's the level, if you see above at the food bar I pointed out earlier, that we're currently set at. So that would be neutral if you take it like that. If you moved it up, you'd be down to food 42. If you moved it up to a level 3 settlement, you'd be down to food 22. But you can start off, bang, out the gate, level 3 settlement, go for it. Now, of course, you do still have to build the buildings in that settlement, but you're good to go by sacrificing that food, but you're then taking the penalties that negative food has on your civilization. Just bear that in mind. But it's a fascinating little option for Skaven to take up. It can result in rapid expansion when you have the excess food to build up to it. Now, another thing I want to talk about here is rites. Now, rites is something that's been introduced for all the races. All the races have these rites, and there is debate. They are looking to get rites incorporated into the combined map for the First World races, but that hasn't been officially confirmed yet. It's just mentioned that, yeah, it's something they'd like to have done by the time that combined map comes out. Now, while we're on the subject of the combined map, we also got a presentation while we were at the event, and indeed, the old leak we had from the Russians, the Russian leak from the first game, actually shows what the combined map will be. So for the combined campaign map, we are getting a huge amount of the Southlands chopped off, a huge amount of Lustria chopped off, and the west side of Nagorov chopped off. So really this is kind of the area we're getting, and you'll notice that this is the map I was shown by Creative Assembly, and the only real space for expansion there is really to the east. So that bodes a couple of questions for the future, namely we're probably looking at Chaos Dwarves, we're probably looking at Ogre Kingdoms, and the third game might not be completely Chaos Demon focused. So something to bear in mind, guys, going forward. But the combined map is that Russian leak map we got so long ago. So look forward to that as well, guys. So we have the Scheme of Doom, and these are just a couple of schemes, and you have to kind of build up the ability to have these rights, either by building certain buildings or researching technologies. As you can see at the bottom of them, it tells you what you need for each one. For example, the Doom Engineer, this right cannot be performed unless you unlock 3 technologies. This right unlocking after construction of a Pestilent Nave building. This one after you reach rank 7 with Faction Leader, and then the last one will unlock after Planning Commandment of the Province. So that's all the rights and when you can do them. Now they last for a certain amount of time. I'm not exactly sure how long off the top of my head, but you can change them around as well, so you get the different bonuses that each right allows you to have. So it's kind of a fun little added element to Total War Warhammer 2. Now let's talk about how the actual campaign works, what you're working towards. Now in this bar here, you'll see in the middle that we've highlighted, the Ritual of Dark Scrying is a ritual. Now these aren't the same as rites, these are rituals, okay? So once you build up enough, in this case, Warpstone, let's just call it rights currency for all the races. Now for each race, the rights currency is different, but it all kind of equates to the same thing. So Warpstone, you have to reach 375. Now you get it through battles, you get it through missions, and you get it through taking over certain provinces. Now, these provinces are, cities. Now, these cities are marked out, and you will be able to see them, but you see there's 5 of these rituals. You have to reach a higher level of currency to be able to do each one. Each one takes about 10 or 20 turns. Now, this is where it gets interesting. There's an interceptor mechanic. So, say I'm on level 1. I'd reached the first level of my rite, and I start the rite, and I've got enough warpstone, and I do it. Several kind of beams will appear from your cities at the time, and they'll combine and then shoot off towards the vortex. It's kind of a cool little visual effect just to show you a ritual is going on. Now, your enemies are told about this. So say the AI is about to do a level 1 ritual. I'll get to find out about it, and I'll get 2 options. I'll get the option to 1, send an interceptor army, or 2, not to really send it and just go take care of it with the armies I have. Now, the idea of the interceptor armies, it will cost you a lot of gold, but it will essentially spawn several stacks that work on your behalf, but you don't control them, whose sole responsibility it is, several full stacks in the example I saw, whose sole responsibility is to shut down that ritual. Now, you shut down the ritual by hitting any of the cities that the ritual's coming out of, and you'll be able to see these on the map, but in the case of the intercept, it won't really bother you, but you can pay to essentially send mercenaries across the world to go and stop the AI doing that ritual. You can, of course, do it yourself if you're close enough or you have enough time, but it does take a good number of turns to get a ritual finished. What also happens with a ritual is not only can these interceptor armies appear, I think they can appear, I don't know if they necessarily appear against you, but you can send them against the AI. Now, what the AI has as far as interception goes is chaos stacks. Now, the first ritual won't get many chaos stacks spawning, but I think I just about, in the few hours I played, managed to get to the first ritual, and I saw the chaos stack emerge. Now, in my case, it was only 1 chaos stack, but as you go up, you will get 2, 3, 4, 5 chaos stacks. I'm not sure if that's exactly how it works out, but you will be under a lot of pressure from chaos to destroy one of your ritual cities the further up the ritual you go, because chaos don't want you shoring up the vortex. So that's what will be happening as these ritual rites go on. A lot of chaos armies coming at you whenever you do it. So be prepared. Have armies near those cities, because you will need them. Don't leave them undefended, or the ritual will be shut down. Anyway, as I said, the rituals go up, and they'll get increasingly difficult to pull off as these intercepting stacks come at you more and more frequently. As you see, huge values needed towards the end, 2,625 warpstone. This is one of the signs for a city that's particularly rich in ritual currency. So you'll get a boost by taking these cities. In this case, it's the Cavern of Sotek. So that's kind of how that one works out. Now, as you can see next to it is a little egg with a tail pointing out. That's a resource icon, and we can see a resource icon over here as well next to your starting city of Uatek, and that's kind of healing herbs, a bunch of whole new resources coming up for this one, some diamonds up there near Zlatlan as well. You can tunnel, do that little teleport that dwarves and beastmen can do, the idea of you traveling through the Under Empire, and you can, as I say, they won't know you're there, so you can have stacks there or you don't have stacks there. Now, if you're playing against the Skaven, and you're a little bit like, oh my god, do I just have to send a stack up to a city and pray for the best? No, what you can do is actually send in a hero. So it's just like sending up like a whole army standing there, kicking a guy forward and going, alright buddy, you go check out those ruins, see if there's an army of Skaven in there, would you? And so that's how that works. So it's a cool little scouting mechanic that you maybe need to do just to find out what is in certain cities. Another cool mechanic I actually want to draw your attention to is the idea of loyalty. Now, I'm not 100% sure, and you guys might know through other YouTubers or something, but I can't remember what it was, particularly what they told us on the day, whether this is just a Skaven mechanic or it's an everyone mechanic. But I hope it's a mechanic that applies to everybody. The idea is when you recruit a general, they will come with a certain sort of bar of loyalty. That'll be between, in this case, 5 and 10. The one below it between 2 and 7. And then when that loyalty drops to 0, they rebel. All the units in their army turn against you, and they will become your enemy. Now, you can lose loyalty, but I think having them lose battles, having them, I think maybe run away, I'm not 100% sure, but there are a couple of things that make you lose loyalty. The one I found most interesting, well, maybe not most interesting, the one I bumped into the most, was when you're taking units out of an army, that makes that general upset with you, and then drops him loyalty points. So it kind of is an incentive there to stop you playing around with armies so frivolously. So you kind of have to keep your armies set at the way they are. So you can't just build up a huge stack, get rid of them. Well, you can, and then a single general might rebel against you. But that's the idea. You can't faff around with armies too much, and you can't do too many horrible things to your generals. Otherwise, they will turn against you and try and take you out. The technology tree we didn't get a lot of. As I said, guys, my original footage was lost, and in the original footage, I plowed through this technology tree, showing you all the bits and pieces, but alas, I was left with the B-roll footage, which didn't have a lot. Now, as you can see, a lot of technology trees in the skits, there's a lot of technology, number one, but it's all cut off through building, so you have to get to a certain level of development first, and then you can start to take advantage. And they're all kind of single, like just little bonuses like +3 casualty replenishment rate, Ruinous Plans requires a building, as you see there. Hit and Run +10 speed for infantry units. And yeah, again, another building, a Den of Secrets. But you can see it's a huge tech tree, a lot of stuff going on, a lot of boosts, a lot of different directions to go. Perhaps the most complicated technology tree we've seen so far. I think it's only comparable maybe to the Dwarves, but I don't think the Dwarves one had all these different intertwining and winding paths through it. So that's something worth bearing in mind as well. So other than the technology tree, we started this campaign with Queek. And let's have a look at his upgrade tree, shall we? So here's Queek himself, lovely chappy. And let's look at the first line. So extremely distrustful. +8 leadership, -1 loyalty for new recruits. So that's just Queek sort of not trusting anyone apart from himself. So that's an interesting little upgrade. With a downside as well, which is quite nice to know. Rend and Slaughter, +12 weapon damage, +8 charge, +8 melee attack with Frenzy. Frenzy for Queek is a great one to have. Make examples. Again, -2 loyalty for Greyseer recruits. At this point, if you recruit a Greyseer general, that's already -3 loyalty. So you have to make sure you recruit one with at least a level 4 and upwards. Otherwise, they might just rebel instantaneously. However, it is +2 for Warlord recruits. So maybe you just want Sorcerer heroes and not Sorcerer generals. That's the kind of choices you have to make as we go along Queek's upgrade tree. We also have Life is Very Cheap. Casualty replenishment rate +10, +5 for slaves and clan rats, and recruitment bonus for them. Crimson Guard, bonuses to Storm Vermin, pretty good. And then Violent Rise to Power, +1 public order, chance of success, hero action, chance of success. Moving down, we have Tail Weapon. We have Ruin and Decay, which is pretty solid, getting them extra, even more bonuses to his fighting against dwarves and, oh, actually this is lizardmen and dwarves, but there we go. That would be +20 to fighting dwarves. Queek could be a very specialized dwarven murderer. So keep an eye on that upgrade path. Now moving down to Pack Leader, just melee attack +4 for your basic clan rats, that's pretty good. Infiltrator for Night Runners, Gutter Runners, kind of your missile infantry. Blastmaster for more like artillery focused missiles, not really artillery, like somewhere in between. Your flamethrowers, your poison wind globadiers, stuff like that. Respected and feared, Storm Vermin, Death Runner, Plague Monk, so your kind of elite infantry upgrades. And then Molder Knowledge, charge bonus for Rat Oaks, and I imagine there'll be probably leadership bonuses and stuff further down that line. So moving on to buildings, let's have a look at the building tree here. We have basic military, which has stuff like the Hidden Lair for allow you to recruit assassins, gutter runners, night runners further up this building tree. You also have the clan pit, which is clan rats, different kinds of clan rats, storm vermin, stuff like that. That's what's all, I think, actually, maybe not storm vermin. I think maybe this is just all clan rats and slave rats. Oh yeah, it is Storm Vermin as well. Sorry, yeah, as in the highest level. And then here on the right, I think that's a clan scryer thing. So I can't really make it out the image anymore, and I'm trying to remember what I've seen. But that might be Plague Monks, actually, and stuff like that. I think that's what that is. That's the Clan Pestilence one, if I'm going to guess. And then we have over here, which is kind of more like, I don't know, cultural buildings. and that's Rattling Warrens. And I'll say one thing, a lot of the buildings in the Skaven building tree give you money. Money is not going to be your biggest problem when you're playing as Skaven. It's going to be food. So food's really the thing that limits the Skaven's growth, not money. They make a lot of money doing a lot of different things. So don't worry about that. It's really food that's going to be the thing you have to keep an eye on. And then we have the slave wheels, which is +1 corruption, and then income from all buildings, plus 60%, all regions in this province, as you can see. And that's level 1. That's level 1 of this building. So money is not an issue. You can recruit tons and tons and tons of armies, have 3 stacks going around in a row. The limiting factor is food. Alright, Rubbish Pit. -5 recruitment, reduction in corruption +1. Alright, whatever. That's maybe just to help you balance things out. And then here we go, Skaven Corruption, +4 Public Order, +80 income generated. So almost everything makes you money in the Skaven building tree. Now here we have the advanced military stuff. Now you're looking at what looks like maybe a clan. I don't think I ever get the name of this building, but a clan scryer building, which gives you, the first one is the Plagueclaw Catapult. I think that's what that is. Then you'll move up to the Doom Wheel and the Warp Lightning Cannon as well. Next to it, I think, is a clan Pestilence theme building with, well, maybe not. That might be the Poison Wind Globadiers, and then at the top of that is maybe Plague Monks. I can't really make out on the images, apologies for that, guys, but I can't remember what each of these little cards represented without my own footage, which I no longer have. And then at the end, the Hell Pit Abomination, that's Rat Ogres, and then just the Hell Pit Abomination by itself. And then there's these buildings here, which is just like your basic town buildings. But you get Nest Lair, you can see the kind of things it gives you. Food Cap +5, grants free construction slots, +1 corruption, Warpstone generated from different buildings, but only 1, as you can see. Income per turn, also making money. And then that's the lair of the bigger ones, the provincial capitals, making a bit more money. Again, more food, more garrisons. And this is a unique building, it looks like, which is the Clan Moors headquarters, which is -30% recruitment for slaves and clan rats, which early doors is pretty bloody solid. And then income from all buildings, +75%, food generated +3, and they have storm vermin with halberds in their garrison, which is pretty good. And then that was about it for the Skaven, guys. Moving on to a couple of other things I managed to pick up during the presentation on some of the other races. As far as the High Elves go, we got to have a look at some of the battles and the kind of bonuses you get. And there was a gate battle where the bonus for the army at the gate was they were able to summon eagles. Now, if I was to guess, I'd guess that was a battle at Eagle Gate, and they could just summon up eagles to help them out to keep the theme of the gate. If you haven't seen my video on the different gates of Ulthuan, do check that one out in the top right hand corner now, or down in the description below. But that was the High Elf one. There's also some interesting stuff about the Dark Elves, and in particular I want to talk about the Black Arks. Now the Black Arks are going to be fantastic. They're technically a unit you recruit, and they act as a city. You can build buildings on them, you can put armies in them, and they do go out to sea. So if you have a Black Ark, and they have their own garrisons as well, so effectively nothing can really one-on-one take out a Black Ark with a full army in it by itself, because any other army on the seas is just a full stack. So these are essentially 2 full stacks going around together as the garrison and the army for the Black Ark. Now, not only is the Black Ark helpful in that, but say you have an army going around the Warhammer world as the Dark Elves, and you have one on the Black Ark itself, you can land them, get them to raid a city, and during the siege, if you keep the Black Ark close enough, you get a special bombardment skill. That's the idea that the Black Ark is firing into the city to help you out. So the Black Arks can even help in sieges if you keep them close by. But as I said, they can have their own building chains, and you can put full stacks on them, effectively making them invincible on the seas, much like maybe one could imagine they would be anyway. So that was my biggest takeaway from the Dark Elf campaign, and it looks to be super exciting, guys. I'm really looking forward to it. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this brief rundown of the Skaven campaign. If you have any questions, do post them below. I will probably do a Q&A for any questions about Total War Warhammer 2 on the campaign stuff I've been able to play so far. So do just let me know, and I look forward to hearing what you have to say about it, guys. As always, huge thank you all to watching. Special thanks to my patrons, Huli, Reese, Colin, Mateus, Samuel Matthews, David Peter, Sign of the Emperor, Niblets, Calef, Nigel, Hankster, Zelher, and James. And a special thanks to you all for watching, and I'll catch you all on the next one.